when we talk about the atmospheric radiation, we need to compute the radiative fluxage. Okay, radiative fluxage of both short wave as well as the long wave radiation. Okay, the short wave radiation, as it comes from the sun, passes through different layers of the atmosphere and reaches the ground, right? And the long wave radiation, which is all the terrestrial radiation, or the radiation which is either reflected from the aerosols, from the clouds, from the earth surface, or scattered radiation, or the no, re-emitted radiation, etc. Those things are in the long wave, right? And we talked about in the last class that what is long wave and what is short wave. Do you remember that? What is long wave and what is short wave? Can anybody recall what is long wave and what is short wave? When we say,
Short waves are having wavelength less than 4 micrometer,
right, and the long wave?
greater than 4 micrometer.
Okay, great, very good. So that's how we categorize or divide or classify, okay, the short wave and the long wave radiation. All right. So for each short and long wave radiation, we need to compute the radiative fluxage, okay, so that we can find out the net radiation, okay, net radiation. That means incoming minus outgoing, and that's what is responsible for heating or cooling of the atmospheric layers, right? So for that, we need to consider the different angles at which the radiation is incident upon a surface or upon a particle, whether it is a cloud or aerosol, and also the angle of the scattering, etc. Okay, so all those things are mostly, that means the geometrical, the area of the surface, okay, the angle at which the radiation is incident, the azimuthal angle, etc., etc. So initially we were just trying to review in the last class about these things, right? And in that sequence, we discussed that when a radiation is emitted from a surface, then it is emitted in all directions. Okay, the radiation is emitted in all directions, and the intensity or amount of radiation emitted in all directions may not be the same. Okay, it does not emit radiation equally in all the directions, right? As illustrated in this figure, in this diagram. Okay, so this is one characteristics of the radiation distribution of directional distribution of the radiation. Okay, another thing we discussed last time was about the concept of the plane angle. Like for example, now if this is the source of the radiation, okay, then the distance from the source to any surface, okay, any plane having length dl, okay, is the angle at which this radiation is incident on this plane surface is the plane angle, okay, plane angle defined by d alpha is equal to dl divided by r. R is the distance here. Similarly, we have the concept of this solid angle, right? Suppose if this is the source of the radiation is emitting the radiation in all direction, okay, then at any solid surface, suppose having area dA1, dAn, okay, there can be solid surfaces in the direction of this radiation, right? Say here, 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 and everywhere, right? So these are the solid surfaces, and this angle d omega is the solid angle given by dAn, where dAn is the solid surface area divided by r square. Okay, r is the distance. So this is the solid angle. The difference between the plane angle, which is d alpha is equal to dl by r, and the solid angle, which is d omega is equal to dAn by r square. Okay. Similarly, suppose you have an area, area, a plane surface area having equal magnitude dA1, okay, and this area is emitting radiation, okay. This area, this surface is emitting radiation. Let us say this is the zenith, okay. Then if a person is looking at this radiation, okay, I mean this radiation is anyway emitted in all directions, although it may not be equally emitted. As we saw in the previous diagram, one of the previous diagrams, that although the source can emit the radiation in all directions, the intensity or the amount of radiation may not be equal in all directions, right? And let's say this is the zenith angle theta, okay, this is the surface area dA1 cos theta, okay. So this is the projection of the dA1 area normal to the direction of the radiation, okay. So this is another thing we have to keep in mind, okay. Then there are further some geometrical concepts, like the emission of radiation, from a differential area dA1, okay. The radiation is emitted from this area equal to dA1 into a solid angle, into this solid angle, okay, uh, equal to d omega. Solid angle is d omega, okay, by the dA1, the area subtended is dA1, okay, in a spherical coordinate system where phi is the azimuth angle, theta is the zenith, okay, d omega is the solid angle, and the dAn is the projected area, okay. So in this case, the d omega can be written as dA1 divided by r square that you had seen in the previous diagram also. I mean, this is simplified here in this diagram. Okay, this is y direction, this is x direction, okay, this is z direction, and at any point in the space having a coordinate r, theta, and phi, any point in the space having coordinate r at a distance r, theta angle, length angle, and phi the solid angle. Okay, so in a spherical coordinate system, in a three-dimensional geometry, okay, the d omega, the solid angle, can be written as sine theta d theta d phi, sine theta d theta d phi. Okay, so this is another concept that you have to remember. Then further, suppose if you have to calculate this solid angle, okay, solid angle and the optical depth. Have you heard about the optical depth or optical thickness? Have you heard about that in any of your previous subjects?
Yes, sir, while learning Newton's ring.
Okay, great. So you have read about the optical depth already. This optical depth is very, very important. Okay, and it will have a lot of applications here in atmospheric science. Optical depth or optical thickness. Okay, for everything now, whether the amount of aerosols present in the atmosphere or the gases, okay, we always try to measure in terms of the optical thickness, okay, how that is optically thick, okay, how much radiation it will allow to pass through, okay, optically thick or optically thin. So it is important to understand the concept for that also, optical thickness, okay. And in order to calculate the optical thickness, we need to have so many informations, like the amount of, say, for example, the solid substances present in the atmosphere. For instance, solid substances like, say, liquid water inside the cloud, or frozen substances like ice, crystals, snow, etc., etc. Okay, solid substances, or even the aerosols for that matter. Okay, so we need to know how much is the quantity of these substances in the atmosphere in order to calculate the optical thickness. Okay, generally, we try to measure the optical thickness globally based upon the satellite. Okay, based upon the satellite, we try to measure the optical thickness, and through that, we try to infer that how much is the uh, presence of, say, aerosols, dust particles, for example. We try to measure the amount of dust present in the atmosphere, okay, based upon satellites. Then we try to measure the optical thickness, right? Say optical thickness, okay, optical depth. or thickness. And through satellites, we try to measure that. Okay, suppose this is your Earth, and these are your different layers of the atmosphere. Okay. So the thickness, optical thickness of the cloud, for example, cloud optical thickness. Okay, suppose you have a cloud in this layer. Okay, you need to calculate the optical thickness, right? So that will depend upon the quantity of hydrometeors present in this types of hydrometeors and the radius of the particles, right? The radius R, also called the effective radius, RE. Okay, effective radius of the particles or hydrometeors which are present in the cloud. So that will determine the optical thickness of the cloud. Similarly, if you have got suppose aerosols or dust particles present. Okay, so it depends on what is the quantity, density, okay, of the dust. That means the number concentration. Okay, number concentration of dust of particles per unit volume. So that will determine the optical thickness or optical depth, etc. Right? So for all those things, we require many things to consider. The angle at which the radiation is incident upon the surface of that particle. Okay, the radius, the effective radius of those particles, or RE, as we said, RE here. Okay, and many other things, right? So for those calculations, we will require this kind of understanding of the geometry, right? So the calculation of the solid angle and the definition of optical depth represented by chi nu. Chi nu. That means it will depend also on the wavelength of radiation. Okay, are important in radiative transfer theory. Okay, outgoing long wave radiation. In this diagram, we have shown the outgoing long wave radiation. Let us say this is a solid surface of the, let us say Earth. Let us say, for example, these are the longitudes, right? These are the longitudes, different longitudes, phi 1, phi 2, etc. And these are the latitudes. Let us say, in this case, again, this is represented by theta only, although. Okay, so these are the latitudes. These are the latitudes, and these are the longitudes. Okay, longitudes. So this is a solid surface of the Earth. Now, when this solar radiation is incident upon the Earth's surface, at say, for example, at this surface, let us say S is equal to 0. S is equal to 0 at this surface, and these are the vertical direction. This is the vertical direction from the surface of the Earth. Okay, so at different length or different altitude above the Earth's surface, let us say this is at the ground level, S is equal to 0. This is S0, S1, S2, S3, S prime, and so on. Okay, so at each level or layer of the atmosphere, suppose if we need to calculate, okay, this is the outgoing long wave radiation. Say outgoing long wave radiation. That means the one which is emitted by the surface of the Earth, as well as outgoing long wave radiation can be also from the clouds which are present in the atmosphere above the Earth's surface, right? So the outgoing long wave radiation, let us say, is represented here by this thick arrow. Let us say this thick arrow is representing the outgoing long wave radiation. Okay, so the point S is equal to 0 is the base of the atmosphere. This S is equal to 0 is the base of the atmosphere. Okay, and it refers to the surface of the Earth. And S0 is the intensity of the radiation at that level. Okay, so at any point where suppose we need to calculate the amount of outgoing long wave radiation at S, which is a function of S0 and S. So the optical thickness chi nu, now which is a function of S prime and S of this section from S to say S prime. Okay. On this section, the optical thickness for this section, okay, from S to S prime, okay, S0 to S prime, is also shown in this diagram here. Okay. Note that the temperature of the ground of the Earth's surface need not be or is not equal to the temperature of the air just above this. Okay, that means temperature at the initial layer of the atmosphere, initial level in the atmosphere, T naught, T at 0 is not equal to T of the ground. That means the ground temperature is not equal to the temperature of the air just above that. Okay. The temperature of the air just above the ground is different from the temperature of the ground. Ground will be quite hotter than compared to the temperature of the air just above that. Okay. So, with this basic concepts, geometrical concepts, now let's discuss about how we define the spectral intensity of the emitted radiation. The spectral intensity of the emitted radiation denoted by, let us say, I lambda E, where E indicates the emitted radiation, lambda is the wavelength, and I is the intensity. So the intensity of the emitted radiation at the wavelength lambda, okay, is the rate at which the radiant energy is emitted at the wavelength lambda in the theta phi direction. The radiant energy is emitted in this direction, and the wavelength of the radiation is, let us say, lambda per unit solid angle about this direction and per unit wavelength interval d lambda about lambda. So that is called the spectral intensity of the emitted radiation, right? What is the spectral intensity of the emitted radiation? It is the rate at which the radiant energy is emitted at the wavelength lambda in the direction theta and phi per unit solid angle. Now you know what is solid angle about this direction, and per unit wavelength interval d lambda about the lambda. Okay. So this is given by I lambda. Okay. Oops. This is this I lambda E, okay, which is a function of lambda, theta, and phi. I lambda E is the spectral intensity of the emitted radiation, which is a function of the lambda in the direction theta and phi is equal to dq, the ratio of dq over dA1 cos theta d omega d phi, where dq divided by d lambda, okay, is actually denoted as dq lambda, is the rate at which radiation of the wavelength lambda leaves the solid area dA1, and passes through several such solid surfaces in the direction of the radiation indicated by DAN. Okay, DAN. This radiation leaves the solid area dA1 and passes through several such solid areas in the direction of radiation. Okay, dA1, dA2, dA3, and so on up to dAn. So rearranging this terms in this equation, we can write dq lambda is equal to I lambda E lambda theta phi is equal to dA1 cos theta d omega, right? Okay, so this dq lambda is basically the rate at which the radiation of the wavelength lambda leaves the solid surface dA1 and passes through the intervening layers or intervening surfaces in the atmosphere, okay, denoted by DAN. Okay, so this is the spectral intensity of the emitted radiation by definition. Okay, whenever we talk about the spectral intensity of the emitted radiation, just remember this definition, and this is the formula for for that. All right. Now, what is emissive power? Emissive power also you must have studied in your BSc. Emissive power. Okay. The spectral hemispheric emissive power denoted by E lambda. Okay, this is denoted by emissive power denoted by E lambda. That is a function of the wavelength lambda. Okay, it is the rate at which the radiation of wavelength lambda is emitted in all directions from a surface per unit wavelength d lambda about lambda and per unit surface area. Okay, so this is the spectral hemispheric emissive power. Okay, the spectral hemispheric emissive power is the rate at which the radiation of wavelength lambda is emitted in all directions. Okay, from a surface per unit wavelength and per unit surface area. Right? The flux based on actual surface area not projected. So the flux is based upon the actual surface area through which the radiation is emitted. The hemispherical is in all directions from the surface. Okay, so the total emissive power E is given by this formula. The total emissive power E lambda, which is a function of lambda, is given by integration in all directions 0 to 2 pi, right? 0 to 2 pi, that means integration in all direction, right? Yeah, that means on a solid surface of the earth, you're trying to, okay, this is suppose your earth surface, and you are trying to integrate radiation in all direction. Okay, all direction, right? And 0 to pi 2, that means vertically. Okay, 0 to pi 2, that means vertically. That means suppose this is the radiation emitted. Say this is horizontal. So you are integrating from this, okay, 0 to pi 2, where this is pi 2, this angle is pi 2, pi by 2, right? And this is 2 pi. This angle is 2 pi, right? 360 degree, the entire 360 degree, right? In all direction. Okay. So the emissive power E lambda, function of lambda, is the integration in all directions 0 to 2 pi and from surface to the zenith 0 to pi 2 of the I lambda E, which is a function of lambda theta phi, cos theta, sin theta, zeta d phi. So this is the definition of emissive power, or formula for the emissive power. Okay, where E is the integration from 0 to infinity. Okay, E is the integration from 0 to infinity of the E lambda, lambda, d lambda. Okay, and E is again given by in triple integration 0 to infinity. Okay, that means you're considering all the wave bands, considering all the wave bands in all the direction 360 degree around the earth. Okay, and 0 to pi 2, that is from surface to the vertical. Okay, the integration of this entire thing. Okay, I lambda E, function of lambda theta phi, cos theta, sin theta, okay, d theta, d phi, d lambda. So basically this is integrated further for all the wavelengths 0 to infinity. Basically you are trying to integrate for all the wavelengths, right? This is the emissive power, the total emissive power. Okay, the diffuse emitter is the intensity of the emitted radiation independent of the direction. Okay, the diffused emission or diffuse emitter is the intensity of the emitted radiation independent of the direction. E is given by I lambda E, function of lambda theta phi is equal to I lambda E times I lambda E function of lambda. So this is the diffused radiation. This is the diffused radiation. Okay, I lambda E. This is the emissive power. E lambda lambda emissive power. This is the diffused radiation. Where again E lambda lambda is equal to pi times I lambda E lambda. Okay, and E is equal to pi times IE. From here, you can write this in simplest form. You can just simplify and write it at E is equal to pi times IE. Okay, this is the emissive power or emitted radiation. Okay, so these are the basic definitions that you have to understand or remember. Okay, or read from books. I think for today we will stop. It's 1:34. Shall stop for today. Is that okay?
Sir.
All of you, are
Yes,
you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. So, am I clear what I am trying to discuss with you? Is that clear or is it very complex? Is that very difficult to understand what I am trying to discuss, or is not so difficult? You need to study. And did you study about the emissive power, etc. earlier in your BSc or somewhere?
Yes, sir. We did study about emissive power and other emissivity and other things in the heat chapter.
Okay.
While studying that Stephen Boltzmann law and those Kirchhoff's law, etc.
Okay.
And what you discussed so far is we have to study a bit from the book also,
Yes.
but we got a rough idea of what
Right.
you
Exactly.
said.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. Yeah. So this is just a building of the concept which you have already studied partly in BSc from a different perspective. What you studied in your BSc is from a different perspective. Of course, fundamental things about the basic heat transfer, But all that we are going to apply now for the real life situation. Okay, we are going to apply all that for the real life situation in the real atmosphere. Okay, because we are trying to compute the solar radiation, the implications of the solar radiation, outgoing, incoming, and outgoing, etc. etc. I mean, there are so many things. Radiation is such an important thing, right? If there was no solar radiation, then there was no life, right? So we are going to study all these things now in the real life perspective, the real life situation for the applications, okay, of the computations of heat flux rates, etc., in different layers of the atmosphere. Okay. So for today, we are going to stop and we shall have the class tomorrow again. All right. I'm going to stop sharing. Stop sharing. All right. So, and then I stop recording also. Recording.